Hey, this is going to be commentary for the 45th chapter of my book, Metadimensional, which you can find on Kindle or listen to for free as an audiobook on Google Play. And links are in the description. So chapter 45 is called Hand in the Dark. So in the previous chapter, I was talking about the private blind gap. And yeah, this is like a topic that, let's say, physicists would say doesn't exist, or it's not interesting, or I don't know. Idea that there are laws of nature, like laws of nature that are private to you, that don't apply to other people. You think that doesn't, like physicists would say that there are only universal laws of nature. There is no, I don't know why they say that, really. Like there's absolutely nothing to show that that's how it is. If you think about the physical randomness, then you understand that there's like a connection there between something that is completely lawless, therefore not obeying the laws of nature, and something that is lawful, like for example, the half-life of a particle, which only half of the material of an isotope, half of the material always decomposes by that time, and that's a lot of regularity to something that is should be not obeying the laws of nature. So what is obeying the laws of nature? It's not the laws of nature, because there's no connection between the randomness and the non-randomness. There's something else. It's not a public blind gap. It's not a public law of nature. That's something that regularity doesn't appear actually in the wakeful world, but it can be observed as a tendency in the wakeful world. So it has to be a private blind gap. Well, okay. Let's say debatable, but it's not like how we operate. We don't operate assuming that everything obeys laws. We are superstitious. We we are religious. We don't you can always try to reduce religion to something that is non-mysterious. Try to reduce it to physicalist terms. But people who actually practice these religions or do magical, indulging in magical practices, they don't see it that way. They don't operate as if all the laws are the laws of nature. They operate as if there are other laws as well. So it's just like physics, like as I said, physics kind of like, if you take a physical randomness, kind of like admits to the existence of laws that it doesn't track. And people on the daily lives, like physicists, when they come home, they take off their physicist robe, and they behave as if there are other laws and with the superstitions. So it's just like everyone just posing as if there's no private blind gap, as if there are no private laws of nature. But then again, you could say, well, even if they exist, what does it matter? You cannot do anything for them. So that's the thing. You can do. Well, if you're just talking about yourself, then yeah, it's kind of problematic. I mean, there are ways to try to use like machine learning to find the private blind gap, but there are reasons why it's hard to identify that. I can see why it can be hard to identify. I'm not saying impossible, but could be. But that's only if you're trying to say, okay, let me find some kind of a way to trigger my superpowers, my super private blind gap superpowers. The laws of nature are true only to me, and I can use that as leverage to beat everyone else at the game of life. But that's not the only way you can use the private blind gap. I would say it's also not the most effective way. The most effective way is the way that is actually being used. And that is, yes, the private blind gap is private, but that doesn't mean it's private, it's necessarily private. It just means that it's not, if you meet someone on the street, you cannot say that let's say, a placebo would work on that. But if you create like some kind of a social circle where everyone's objective subset coheres, then their private blind gap could cohere with yours, even though outside that group, that won't be, it won't happen like that. So you could see regularity in where other, like officially, scientifically, there is no regularity. And if you measure it in like if you measure it, like observe it independent, if you take like let's say you find some kind of a, let's say a tribe that believes that this medicine can heal people, then you try that medicine and everyone says it works, and then you try that medicine somewhere else and it doesn't work. That's not, doesn't mean that it doesn't work. That doesn't mean it's placebo. It could also mean that in a group it can work, while staying in that group, while sharing those beliefs and living a life that is in sync between that, within that group. You can bottle it as the same way, but that doesn't mean you necessarily never can bottle it. Like the idea is this: there's this process of called body space reconciliation. It is that this process of body space reconciliation that makes it so that when let's say you do the double slit experiment and one makes a measurement and the other doesn't, then somehow a coherent reality is created when they meet. So there's going to be body space reconciliation, and you can use that process, body space reconciliation, objective substrate reconciliation, and you can use that process to also reconcile into a specific blind gap that you want. Now, is that easy? I don't know. Like it seems like an organic process that happens in societies and in cultures and religions. And when you try to use like a objective measure, something that that would work on everyone, irrespective of whether they are part of that group and whether their private blind gap objective substrate coheres and is in sync, then it would stop work. But within that group, it would. And if that group stays closed, then it would. But you're looking at a very different version of reality than the version of reality that you're thinking about. You think about like reality as the thing that is out there. There's one truth, one reality. That's not the reality this theory reveals. This theory reveals a reality where these things are like each spatial agent, each metadimensional, you, me. We each live in what seems like a completely different reality, and we cohere, we reconcile, but we're still different. So it's a very different set of intuitions than the set of intuitions that you come to if you assume physicalism, which is this theory doesn't assume. And so there are ways to the same way you can achieve consensus in other settings. You can use to change the private blind gap and basically change the laws of nature to that are common to a group of people, which might be good enough for you to what you want it to be, or what not what you want it to be, what your private blind gap allows. And then you can use methods that wouldn't work on you because it's so hard for you to identify your private blind gap. But if you are in a group, then it becomes easier. It becomes more like science within that group. Yeah.